Welcome to a new episode of the Straight Wrestling Voices of the Indies podcast. I'm your host Morbo, and as always, with me, my co-host, everyone's favorite US independent wrestling fan, Sebastian.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Morbo, as always, and welcome everyone to this week's episode of Straight Wrestling Voices of the Indies. And our guest today is an independent wrestler who is also known for his work in WXW. He has been the finalist of the Ambition of this year at the 60 Carat Gold weekend. He has appeared for WXW last year already as a part of We Love Wrestling Wildcard edition. And we are very happy to have him as our guest today. And therefore, thank you for taking the time to be our guest today. And welcome, Thomas Shire.
Hey, thank you for having me as well. Thank you for that introduction. I was also on Inner Circle. No.
Okay, Thomas, for the people who don't know who you are, who is Thomas Shire?
Oh, man. An old man in the wrestling business. I don't know. Well, I started wrestling in February of 2007 with Dory Funk Jr. And went to All Japan through him in 2008. So I've kind of had a different change. I know a lot of people in WXW or in the American Indies have known me as the King of Haas Island, but I came back recently. Oh, excuse me. I came back recently as the Tombstone now. So no more King of Haas Island, no more handsome, gorgeous grappler or anything like that. Now, just the Tombstone.
How did you get into wrestling as a fan, and also what fascinates you about wrestling?
Well, I grew up in Charlotte, North Carolina, and my dad was a big wrestling fan for Jim Crockett Promotions. So I had an older brother also, and so we grew up. You know, I was born in 1988, so we grew up during that big boom period with Jim Crockett Promotions and WWF, and so it was always on the TV, and the characters. I remember Demolition was one of the things, and the Road Warriors. Those big guys with the face paint and everything, it kind of drew my interest. And then watching WCW Nitro, seeing guys like Chris Jericho and Eddie Guerrero wrestling, and of course, seeing that they had Macho Man and everything too. I kind of got out of it for a few years, but that was the big kind of draws the characters, I guess. And then as I got into it more, the actual wrestling, and that's what I really, really like now is learning the history of wrestling through people like Dory, going to training with him, and Osamu Nishimura telling me about a bunch of people. And now through them, I've gotten into, of course, like Billy Robinson. I was always really into William Regal when he was in WCW and WWE. So that's it. Before it was all the big, the big muscle, face painted guys, and then now it's all the on the mat wrestling and the physicality now.
You have wrestled under 3 different names: Darren Shire, Elvis Sharp, and Thomas Shire. Do the names have certain origins, or is there a meaning behind them?
No, I hope you wouldn't have brought up Darren Shire, but yeah. No, the Elvis Sharp was given to me by when I wrestled at Bang TV for Dory. His wife thought I looked kind of like Elvis, and so they were like, "Why don't you dye your hair?" And it's kind of like a honky tonk man kind of thing, and that's where I went to All Japan under the Elvis Sharp name. And Darren Shire was my brother came up with that one, actually, because we were used to be. He's Ian. He's a wrestler too. His name is Ian Shire. And I picked Darren Shire. And then when I moved to Texas, there was about 5 different wrestlers named Darren, and they were all spelled differently. And so they were just like, maybe you should change your name. And so my middle name is Thomas. So I was like, okay, I'll just go through and say Thomas Shire now. So I didn't really have a specific goal in mind with all of it, but it just all kind of turned out to be that way.
As you mentioned, you were originally trained by Dory Funk and also by Funaki. How did they influence your wrestling style, maybe also the way you see the wrestling business?
Oh, Dory, um, he gave me a lot of great advice. Not even through speaking it. It was just more kind of just the way that he taught everything, the moves, um, the way to apply a hold. He didn't really have to like tell me how to do it. He just more showed me how to do those things, match structures, ways of conducting yourself in the back, the locker room or around fans or um, yeah, he gave me. It's kind of like the way that he was, kind of not really laid back, but he was more calm and cool and collected and everything. And getting to train with Fudaki, he was going back and forth to the performance center when I was there with him. So he gave me a lot of those drills that they did for the performance center. So that really helped out a lot more with like agility and things like that too. So, um, but he mixed in kind of like the dojo system too, where we would always bow to each other after classes and things like that too. So they gave me, I mean, a great assortment of oh, I can't think of the word. It was just a great assortment of everything. You get the Dory style of wrestling, and then you get somebody who like Funaki was more WWE style, mixed in with a little bit of his influence for in Japan as well.
In 2008, as you mentioned, you had several matches for All Japan Wrestling. How do you get in contact with All Japan, and how would you describe your experience there?
That was all through Dory. He earlier in the year had one of his retirements in March of 2008, and so just training in the school with Dory, and they had Osamu Nishimura come out, and he came out a couple times to scout uh, just wrestlers and thing, to see who Dory had, who was possibly going to be good enough to go over there and train in the dojo and everything. So um, the experience overall was positive. There was some certain things um, that happened over there that it was possibly just me being younger. I think I'd only been wrestling for a little over a year. I was 20. I didn't have a whole lot of world experience, so possibly could have been a little bit better now. But it was also something where I went into it. I had a shoulder injury. I did a diving headbutt off the top rope, and I landed right on my shoulder. And instead of telling anyone, it was kind of just like I need to take this experience and doing 300 push-ups a day on the shoulder didn't help too much. So I think halfway through the tour, I had a giant bruise on my shoulder. I don't know. Didn't get any of the footage of any of that. Unfortunately, I did buy the pay-per-view that I was on in the um, sumo arena, but that was about it. Yeah, but overall, great experience because uh, I went in there thinking it was going to be something different, and then it was waking up at 6 a.m. every day. I had to sweep and vacuum and then bleach the ring to make sure it was all right for us to train in. And, clean up the dojo and do all the training, uh, clean up around the house. Like I had chores and everything. So went into it thinking it was going to be a little bit different, but then ended up getting like the young boy treatment over there. And I was only there for a month, so it wasn't like a long stay, but um, it was really something that helped me grow as a person too. Because sitting there thinking like, man, this is really, this is really, really, really tough. Is it's kind of like a gut check thing. Like, do I want to keep on doing this? And so anytime anything gets rough, I just kind of remember what that was like. And I remember, going through all that training. And so it's just something to look back onto. Now I can look back and be like, oh yeah, that was great. But at the time I was like dying.
Now talking about the more recent developments in your career, Since October of last year, you had a lot of stuff happening in your career. It pretty much started with you appearing at WXW Wheel of Wrestling Wildcard edition, I already referred to, where you had a match against Kevin Lloyd. Can you explain how this all happened? For example, how you got in contact with WXW, and how was your experience there?
Yeah, so with that, I went to England in February of last year. Last year? Yeah. Um, I went there and I got in contact with Felix through Twitter, and just a little message to him, just, hey, I'm going to be over there. If you guys have a spot, I can try to make my way over there. And because WXW has always been a place that I've wanted to go to. I had a friend in Texas. His name is Chris Wolf. That I used to go over to his house, and he would watch videos all the time. And like when they had Sekimoto over there, and the Too Strong Daddy, and uh, just watching people like Danielson being over there, and Chris Hero and people like that. So that's a place that I wanted to try to get to. So I figured I'd just put myself out there, and maybe he would message me back. And he said, just let him know. But there wasn't anything at that time. And then I saw on Twitter that they had like the We Love Wrestling, and they were calling all people who wanted to try to be on it. And so I said, what's the least that or the most that could happen, or the worst that could happen, kind of thing. And um, I sent out my information again, and just not thinking anything of it. And then I heard about it, and or heard back from them, and uh, then everything started to get rolling. And hey, you're actually going to be on the show. Then it's this and that. And then when Kev Lloyd was announced as my opponent, I started watching a little bit more of his. I kind of heard about him before because of all of the stuff that he does at Wigan in the Snake Pit. And so, I mean, that was just it was all just kind of like, oh, I'm going here now, this and that, and got to make sure that I'm ready for everything. So and then actually going there, everything was amazing. It was during the tag festival, so I got to see how some of the people from Japan and England and France and all kinds of places kind of culminate into these shows. So it was unlike any experience I've seen before. The production and everything, just the whole staff, and like all the fans were great too. So it was just even more positive experience than I thought it was going to be.
You returned to WXW this year at Inner Circle, and afterwards at Ambition, where you reached the final. How much did this mean to you on a professional but also on a personal level?
Wow, that was uh yeah, it was the Inner Circle was really, really great. I remember them saying like, oh yeah, we do this and this, and we only give out so many tickets and things like that. And I know a couple of people are kind of like, oh well, what's this going to be like? And there's no barricade, and you just come out and you're right there on the where the fans are. And that was really, really cool. It reminded me kind of like doing the Bang TV shows with Dory, just on a bigger scale. I mean, we would probably have like 25 25 35 people, and that was mostly some of the wrestlers family. But uh yeah, doing that was great. The Inner Circle was great. And then personally and professionally for me, doing Ambition, it was kind of something that um a lot of people in America have tried to do. They tried to do, uh, those type of tournaments, or try to be like a UWFI, or, um, do those like kind of festival style tournaments. And I've only done one of them, and I've been trying to get on them because I feel like that's kind of something that I was trained for, not only with Funaki because of his background. And I remember he did battle arts a couple times, he was telling us, and through Nishimura, who was trained by Tatsumi Fujinami and other great wrestlers that did that style. And he was influenced by Osamu Kid, who did Big Mouth Loud. And um, so that was kind of like, that was a goal for me also. And then to actually go to the finals and wrestle Abe, who is somebody that I look up to as a wrestler as well, is like it was kind of like the first time I went, where everything was just kind of happening, and I was just like, and getting caught up in everything, and just kind of enjoying the moment too. And it was a different style uh, for ambition. Just the fans studied a little bit more, I feel like, and you can really hear the hits. And looking back on it too, without having the commentary, it's a special feeling too. It's I don't know, it's hard to describe for me.
Just like ambition in a circus, always described as a very special event within the WWE universe. Following up on what you just said, how would you describe the difference between wrestling in a smaller academy compared to wrestling in the Turbinenhalle?
Oh, it's I would say it's similar but different in a way, because you can always kind of hear everybody, but in the inner circle at the academy, it's kind of just like everybody's on top of you, and you want to perform a little bit higher, uh, because they're on top of you. But at the Tribune Hall, is that right? uh,
Turbinenhalle, but it's okay.
Turbine but over there, you still want to perform at an even higher level too, because there's going to be more than the 100 people. There's going to be a little bit more anxiety. There's going to be a little bit more adrenaline and everything. Um, Wrestling in such a bigger place, but also having a more intimate setting can really get you going as well. So it's similar but different in that way. The inner circle is loud, as the fans, and then the ring is a lot louder in in Oberhausen. But um, yeah, I think that's the different but the same, still special though.
Speaking of different but the same, do you do anything different in preparation, not only physically but also mentally, before an ambition match as a special type of match compared to a normal match? Do you go into that with like a different mindset?
Yeah, I try to, just because of the nature of the matches, where it's going to be possibly a little bit more physical. Probably going to have to be a little bit sharper, because you never know exactly who you're going to be wrestling with it. I mean, um, who the people are announced for everything, but you don't know, like, okay, well, if this person goes in, this person, so I need to be ready for Kevin Lloyd, Bobby Guns. Even when I wrestled Peter Tiani, I know people are like, oh well, he's high flying kind of guy, but still, he can kick, he can punch, he can grapple. So you just never know with certain things like that. So I feel like you got to be uh, you know tuned up a little bit more with those kind of matches, because you never know. You might take a slap or a kick, or maybe you get into a hold, and then all of a sudden, your night's done with that. But with the regular match, you just kind of try to get tuned in too, and um, just kind of let everything flow. Honestly, I just kind of try to shake everything out and just get into that zone of being, Thomas Shire when I go out there.
When I think back at We Love Wrestling Wildcard Edition, most fans in attendance didn't know who you were, but I spoke to multiple people who really enjoyed your performance and were happy to see you back and also reach the final of Ambition this year. Did you expect to get that kind of reception before you appeared for WXW for the first time?
No, I didn't, and that's one of the things where, um, even though I wrestle on the indies, it's kind of every place on the indies has kind of a like little pockets, and being in the Midwest, wrestling in Texas, and I used to be going to Atlanta. I used to go over there, and I wrestled for Action a couple times in AWE. So it's kind of like, the certain places that I go to, it's kind of like, well, how many people actually know about this over there, or how much exposure have I gotten over there? And I'm not a very um, social media focused person, unfortunately. I know that's something that a lot of people use as a way to get out there, like reach fans. But for me, it's just kind of, I don't know. I try, but it's just not a part of, I guess, the culture of what I was. That's like Dory didn't treat me. We didn't have Twitter when Dory taught me in 2007. So, yeah, I kind of have to learn how to get better with that. But going over there, I didn't think I would get a reception at all. I thought I would come out, and I was semi-main event before, Jaden and LJ Cleary. So I thought, okay, well, this is going to be the tuner match, But I ended up meshing well with Kev, and he's a great catch wrestler, and I have experience in catch wrestling through my training. And um, I didn't expect the crowd to get that involved in the match either. I thought, because sometimes when you do that kind of catch wrestling and exchanging of holds, or you're on the ground a little bit longer, I know in the States at least the crowd can kind of just sit on their hands, or they get on their cell phone or anything like that. But uh, when I came out for there, and then Inner Circle, when I came out and all the fans were just on top of the entrance curtain, and I came out, and it's just it's really great to hear. It's really great to see. And then Ambition, I thought everybody was going to be quiet again, and like, why, how did this guy get to the finals, kind of thing. Um, so I guess I don't know. I guess it's just different preferences on um, wrestling psychology or ideology over there for that. Because when I went back home, I tried to be like, "Hey, I went to Ambition," and some people are like, "Yeah, whatever, man. Like, we still don't really, we still don't really like your wrestling." So
On both occasions, when you appeared for WXW, afterwards, when you were back in the United States, you appeared for Grendel Wrestling against Gary J, and later on against Nick Aldis. And before we go further into detail, Grendel Wrestling is a relatively new promotion from the St. Louis area where you live. How would you describe the promotion and their concept?
well, yeah, they don't I feel like the structure that they have, because they bring in a lot of really great talent from all over. So they don't have that like monthly or weekly kind of mentality for wrestling. It's kind of like, okay, we're going to give you a big show, but you're going to have to wait a little bit. But also that's kind of a good thing. And I feel like Joey really wants. He's the owner of Grandel, but I feel like he really wants to bring out the best product for uh, St. Louis wrestling, but and for the fans too. Give the wrestlers around the St. Louis area kind of a bump. He puts it on YouTube. They're not on anything else right now that I know about. Uh, but he'll bring in, I know last show he brought in like Paul London, and I wrestled Nick Aldis, and he had the Motor City Machine Guns and West Coast Wrecking Crew and all kinds of people on these shows. So um, it's kind of a different structure. It's probably not like it's probably not going to be a weekly or monthly thing. But the atmosphere is really, really great, because I wasn't on. No, I was on the actual Grandel show. So it's called Grandel Wrestling after the Grandel Theater in St. Louis, and I wrestled Nick Aldis there at the Grandel, and that was great. It was kind of like a horseshoe venue where we wrestled onto a stage, so the crowd was kind of risen up. And then we did one of the shows at Pops, which is a bar in Sauget, Illinois, and a lot of promotions use that now. Like GCW was just there not long ago, maybe a month ago, and so it's nice where you get to use the different venues, but also like the mission statement, I guess, in my head would just be, getting out the best and brightest that St. Louis has against the best and brightest around the world, to give a spotlight on the actual scene here in St. Louis.
Your first of two matches for Grendel Wrestling was in October of 2022 against Gary J, and it was a Texas death match. Did you feel like this match type especially fits your character, and also maybe the way you got into wrestling with Dory Funk as your trainer? And would you like to do such a match again in the future?
Very, very different match than I'm used to. I've never really gotten into that side yet. I think that was the first time I've ever gone through a table, honestly. And I think the only times I've ever been hit with a chair was maybe a year, maybe even a year and a half prior to that against Jake Durden in a St. Louis Anarchy match. So I don't really have too many weapons matches or street fight matches or Texas death matches. So they wanted to make it a Texas death match specifically because of my training with Dory, and I was like, okay, well, you guys know what's going to get involved with it. It's going to be a pretty brutal match. So and we did it around Halloween too. So I had the face mask on or the face paint on to kind of really go into this deeper mode of like, okay, I'm not going to be trying to grapple Gary, especially somebody like Gary who is known for his striking, is known for his, I threw him, I was bleeding buckets and I gave him the UFO into the second, third, fourth row and he still got up, he's the robot basically, he's stiff robot Ginger. So, somebody like that, you have to go into, okay, now it's not just a straight up wrestling match. It's actual, this is going to be very, very brutal. And he already chops very hard. So I know it's going to take that, but there's also the added element of now there's going to be tables or chairs or maybe a chain or, something. So for me, I had to really step it up. And, I actually ended up tearing up the ring and we went through and hit the board. So it was just something that I'm not very experienced in. But I feel comfortable in with that. Any type of match style, really, catch wrestling, brawling, any kind of thing like that. I wouldn't say that it's going to be something that I do a lot, but maybe here and there,
Another promotion from the St. Louis area, and pretty much your home promotion, is St. Louis Anarchy. And at St. Louis Anarchy, you also had your last match for quite some time on April 14th as a part of SLA as seen on Anarchy against Adrian Surge. Can you explain what happened that kept you from wrestling for quite some time?
Yeah, it was just a culmination of a lot of old injuries that I had. Like I was saying, when I went to Japan, I messed up my shoulder pretty bad, and I didn't really tell anybody. And I was training on it every day, not only just at Dory School, but then when we went to Japan and having to do the push-ups and trying not to show them that I was kind of struggling a little bit with that. So it was shoulder and then just lower back issues, hip issues. From wrestling so much. And before I came to St. Louis in 2017, right before I came up here, I was working out with a friend of mine, and he loaded up like 225 pounds on the squat bar for doing front squats, and I have never done that before. And he kind of got me all riled up for it, and I did it, and I did 2 reps, and on the second rep, I felt something on my hip kind of pop, and so I've just been dealing with like hip issues and SI joint, and I broke my leg in 2016, so that kind of left some areas weaker. So I've always been trying to play catch up with it, and I kind of let those, compound a little bit. And I think going over to Germany was kind of a longer flight, so I don't want to, I'm not saying anything about the matches that I had there, but I think just the travel there, I wasn't as prepared, and I think I was a little bit more worn down than I thought I was, and so I just had to take. Well, I guess it was April was the last time, yeah. So I just had to take 4 to 6 months off. They said, and I ended up taking the full 6 just because of how things were stacking up with wrestling and uh, my treatment, because it was the shoulder, hips, lower back, having to get my knees, feeling better, getting my ankle better. I have a implant in my ankle from when I broke my leg, and so sometimes my ankle gets a little bit weaker, and I need to really strengthen up everything there. So just a lot of band work and stretching, flexing, mobility, pliability exercises. So Yeah.
Also, at the St. Louis Anarchy show, you had your return when you made the save for Mendes in his match against Derek Neal on October 12th as a part of SLA Canvas of Dreams. How was the feeling of having such a surprise return in your home promotion? And what does St. Louis Anarchy in general mean to you?
I was very nervous. For me, I mean, I've been doing this since 2007, and I understand that a lot of things in wrestling move very, very quickly. And in that time, we've had a lot of wrestlers in St. Louis Anarchy. I don't want to say step up, but they've been really, really, really challenging themselves to be better. So they've been moving up throughout the card on the shows and in the fans' eyes as well. So for me, it's something where okay, I'm gonna do this, and I'm not gonna get a reaction or something like that. You know, I get in my head about something like that. But then the switch turns, you know, and Thomas Shire happens, and um, so going out there and I feel like Derek Neal and I have a long history now in St. Louis Anarchy. He's been undefeated there, and he's been the GHC champion. I don't even know how long, probably over a year now. He beat me in the Dingo Invitational Finals. He beat me in one of his second or third matches at the in St. Louis Anarchy. So I feel like the people, when they actually saw that it was me, come out, you know, I had the chair and, you know, make sure everybody clears house and everything. And I'm over there helping out Manders and ended up sitting down that chair because that was something that when I first came to St. Louis Anarchy in the Spalding Hall, you couldn't stand on the chairs. They had a policy about fans or, you know, wrestlers standing on the chair. So I used to do it because I was a bad guy and everybody hated it. So I just figured I'd sit down on the chair this time and look at Derek. And then they started saying, you know, chanting Shire. I was like, okay, they haven't forgotten about me kind of thing. And so my man with St. Louis Anarchy, I've been there a few times when I lived in Texas and wasn't really able to gain any kind of steam just because it was kind of like 4 months at a time or 6 months at a time, kind of like, you know, sparing with that. And I think the last time I went up there before I moved up here was 2014, I think. And then it was about 3 years or 3.5 years since I had been there. And of course, they had closed down because NWL started up. And then once NWL closed down, then Jackson started back up with St. Louis Anarchy. And I mean, I've been there ever since the relaunch of everything. And I've had some uphill battles, I guess, with that. I wrestled a couple of people, you know, like Larry D. They had me wrestling like the Hosses when I was trying to be the king of Hoss Island. Some bigger guys that, you know, really, really beat me up. Not, you know, not too bad, but, you know, it was a struggle to finish those matches sometimes. And uh, then I wrestled Gary at Hog Wild, and you know he headbutted me, and I just started bleeding. And then after that night, you know, Gary left me in the ring, and everybody started pounding on the mat, and it was just very special. Like moments like that that you have in wrestling. Sometimes they never happen. Sometimes they only happen once or twice. But every time I go out there now, it's a different response to when I used to come out before. And uh, I feel like the fans I gain like their trust. They know when I go out there, they're gonna see a really great match, or you know, I'm gonna at least do my best in the matches and give them everything that I have because they, you know, gave me such great response with that. So it's definitely become a place that yeah, I feel like I can call home now. So I've been here since 2017 now.
And last but not least, before Morbo will talk to you about what's next in your career,
Yeah.
only 1 month later at the next show, you had your first match back again. Also, of course, for St. Louis Anarchy at Mega Ticket on November 18th. So from the day we are taping this a bit over a week ago, against Tommy Davis. How did it feel to also be back in the ring as an active competitor and not just being part of the shows, but also going in the ring again and to wrestle again?
That was nerve wracking again. I always get a little bit of butterflies when I go out there. I just I don't know. I just want to do so well all the time when I'm out there. And for me, when I was going through everything and trying to get better, I would stay away from the shows. So um, I don't know, when I couldn't be there kind of thing, because I would want to get in the ring or I would want to do something and so I just decided to be away for that time up until I did the save with Manders. And so to actually be back in the ring and kind of moving around and hitting the ropes and feeling out the boards and everything, it's a different feeling for that. It's kind of like I didn't leave. It's kind of like there wasn't a half year long gap in between it. Um, just because when I broke my leg, it was a full year before I actually had a match, not by choice, but I just, I couldn't get anybody to take that chance on me. And then St. Louis Anarchy took the chance on me when I moved up here. And um, now going back out there, and it was in Spalding Hall too. So it's really, really great uh, to just be in front of those fans. Uh, and yeah, just something about being back in the ring. It feels like Dory used to say, I want you to get in this ring and make it feel like it's your living room, and it always does. It feels like it's just um, a comfort zone, I guess, at this point. Now been doing this for uh you know however long, 17 years or some 16, 17 years. So um, and then getting in there with someone like Tommy Davis, who I've heard that he was really, really great. So he had been working his way up uh, from the pre-show matches. So this was his first match on the main card too. So I know he felt a lot of pressure, and uh, so we had a nice. It was a shorter match, but it was very fiery. He likes the stuff that I like, Kings Road style, and he likes watching a lot of Japanese wrestling, a lot of British wrestling. So, um, try to have a little bit of that in there, a little bit of fire for him. So, uh, yeah, it was very special, very special. I don't know. It's hard hard to get it out with words, but it's just something that uh, very, very comforting for me to just be in the ring and hear those people again. Because of course I walk out and I think doing this new thing, doing the Tombstone thing, new music. They're used to hearing certain music from me, so it's like, well, this could all just go terribly, and then I'll just quit, I guess, kind of thing. So
You are mostly known for your work in the St. Louis region, but you also have been to Japan, UK, and Germany before. Do you have certain regions or maybe even certain promotions you would like to wrestle for in the future? And does being back after being injured for quite some time motivate you even more to explore like new promotions or regions?
oh, definitely. Because I started out in Florida with Dory, and I never really got to expand out too much with him. But through Eddie Kingston, I was able to do his grindhouse that he did shortly after lockdown during COVID. And so I'd love to get back to Florida. I really cut my teeth, I feel like, in wrestling in Texas. I was there from 2010 until 2007, so about 7 years, wrestling in Austin and Dallas and Fort Worth area. Um, San Antonio. I used to live in San Antonio when I was with Funaki. So I've been in contact a few times with some of the promotions there in Texas, and there's some wrestlers that I would like to wrestle out there. I'd love to wrestle in North Carolina. I've never wrestled there. And I've always wanted to wrestle in Charlotte since it's where I was born. I'd like to get back out to Atlanta, expand out here in the Midwest. And I talked to Daniel Makabe a little bit about wrestling up in the Pacific Northwest, because that's also a place that I would like to go. I'm a big fan of Don Owens' territory there with Roddy Piper. So just certain places like that I would like to wrestle at, because I like territorial wrestling and everything. And I got to wrestle out in near San Francisco one time, in Eureka, California, I believe it was. And so that was really, really nice for me, because I'm a very big fan of Roy Shire. My last name is Shire, but somehow we share the same last name, and yet I'm in wrestling, so I've never made that connection how I'm related to him. But I would definitely next year love to come back to Germany. I really had a great time over there, not only for WXW, but when I was in England also, and great promotions like Kamikaze and Modern Nomad, uh, who I'm sure, if I let them know, hey, I'm in the area, or maybe not, maybe they'll be like, oh, whatever. But I'd love to go back and wrestle for them. I talked to a few people about going over to like France and Spain and things like that when I was over at WXW. So that was a very nice thing about being there, is they have people from France and Hungary and all kinds of places over the world, and kind of get to talk to them and say, hey, what's your wrestling like over there? Is there a chance that I could experience it? And I feel like ever since I went to Japan, the focus has always been to get back there one time. Like, I guess it's kind of like, I need that redemption, I guess, not being Elvis Sharp, now being, who I can be, and somebody who's a better in-ring performer and, has more life experience. I feel like going out there would be another focus. And one of the things that I'm just trying to focus on right now, and like those are great goals, but right now I'm just trying to focus on getting back into the gym. I wasn't able to really do anything with weights. Mostly just banded exercises, stretching. Uh, so I'd like to build my body back up to that, and then see where I can go with that.
Are there any wrestlers you would like to wrestle against specifically, or also people you would like to wrestle for the first time? Because I know through a conversation with Sebastian, and you already mentioned him, you would like to wrestle against Daniel Makabe again.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. We wrestled for St. Louis Anarchy. It was a strong style tournament. So there was a little bit of limitations with what we could have done in the matches just by the rules that they had. But Daniel and I both say that if we don't have a match that limited us, and we can actually get some time out there, and I feel like we could have a really great match. There's a lot of people. I mean, I would say probably everybody at WXW that I haven't wrestled so far too. Uh, I really like Tristan Archer, and uh, I, I liked Maggot when I was over there too. He's got a great presence to him, and a very different wrestler. Of course, anybody in Amboss. Did I say that right too? I feel like I said that right.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm still trying to learn everything. But I'd like to also, when I was in Texas, this was during right after lockdown too. I wrestled Brian Keith, and I feel like he and I would have another really great match. That way we could get it out to we wrestled in for heavy metal wrestling that's no longer in San Antonio. And they used to do mall shows all the time. They had a wrestling ring at the mall, and so we wrestled there, and it was a little bit more. It was almost like Dory's shows where there was about 25 people, and it was very intimate. But we had restrictions for COVID back then. But I'd like to get back in there with Brian Keith. I tweeted out a while ago that I wanted to wrestle Timothy Thatcher, but that didn't happen this year. So possibly next year can get in with that. And I've always just been in the mind that I'll get in there with anybody. Really, I want to test myself against anybody and everybody. Like wrestling with Kev was a great joy for me, since I don't get to showcase that kind of side of me, or wrestling Daniel, I don't get to showcase that side of me. We're exchanging holds, or we're actually wrestling kind of thing. A lot of people think I'm just like a kick stomp kind of guy, and or I throw people around. That's not always the case. Like I was training with Dory and Nishimura, and I used to when I was in Japan, Minoru Suzuki used to train all the guys in the Tokyo Gurentai. So I would watch their training and see how they would train and try to apply it whenever I got a chance, on my own ring time as well. So there's a lot of styles that I like, and I feel like if I named I don't want anybody to feel bad if I didn't name them, but there are a lot of wrestlers that I would like to get in the ring with, especially Derek Neal. Wrestle him for the GHC in St. Louis Anarchy.
Are there certain goals you would like to achieve in your career, both on the short and on the long run?
I mean, there's always that thing of trying to get to a specific place, whether that be on TV or, going overseas and trying to, apply my craft over there too. I always liked the Eddie Guerrero approach, the Chris Jericho approach, where those guys, they started off somewhere, and then Jericho went to Mexico and Germany and kind of branched out there, and then went to Japan, and then he started in with WCW. So it's kind of, I always wanted to try to follow that, and it's kind of gone, but it's kind of my career's kind of gone like that, but it's kind of years and years apart with that. So I mean, I would say just trying to be happy and healthy, honestly, right now, and seeing where I can go with that. I know that's not like a lot of wrestlers like, I want to get a contract and I want to do this and that, and that's great, but also I have to figure out what habits I need to get there, what stepping stones I need to get to kind of be seen for that. And I feel like my main goal is just to keep on doing this. I'm in my mid 30s now. I've been doing it since I was 18. So just staying happy and healthy and being able to do it and being able to perform, and trying to get my body back to where I can perform at a higher level than what I was used to back a couple years ago.
Okay, Thomas, that's it. We're at
Yep.
the end of the interview. And as always, the stage is yours. You can plug and promote anything you want.
Oh, wow. Well, right now, just getting back into everything. And I appreciate you guys taking your time out as well to have me on the show. It's not something that I do a whole lot. I don't really get requests like this. So it's very nice to kind of just have a chat. And I apologize if I ramble sometimes. Sometimes my brain, I try to come up with articulate things. So, but right now I'm just back at St. Louis Anarchy. We do have a show. I believe it's January 26th. That'll be at Spalding Hall. Should be on IWTV. Our latest show that Sebastian was mentioning is on IWTV right now. It should be on YouTube as well. St. Louis Anarchy has a YouTube channel, and they'll do specific matches and little reels and things like that too. So, yeah, like I'm not very active on Twitter or Instagram, unfortunately, right now. But you can always follow me at Not That Shire on in Twitter, and then at Not That Shire _ on Instagram if you'd like to hang out and check out what I have there. I post pictures of my cat. But yeah, hopefully I have more in the future, and I do appreciate you guys' time, and I appreciate you letting me come on the show.
Thank you very much for coming on the show, Thomas. I saw you live at Ambition, and I was immediately a fan of you because Sebastian spoke so well about you. And I also checked out the last recent St. Louis Anarchy show just because of you and your return match. So, yeah, hopefully we see you maybe one day in Germany again. Maybe I have to talk to Felix, and he should book the Ambition super fight, Daniel Makabe versus Thomas Shire.
Yeah, there we go.
Thank you very much, as always, to you, Morbo, and thank you, as always, to you, Florian, for recording this. And of course, thank you to you, Thomas, for taking the time and to be our guest today. As Morbo already mentioned, you are one of my favorite independent wrestlers. We know each other now for over a year. I still remember when we first met at Wheel of Wrestling Wildcard Edition, when almost no one knew you, but I knew you. And therefore, it was great to have you as a guest today. And also thank you to everyone who has listened to us before, who will listen to this episode. And therefore, thank you very much. And we will be back again.